Welcome to the Aussie Game Podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. The Socceroos have come crashing back to earth after their World Cup win over Turkiye, falling to co-host USA 2-0 in Seattle. With some surprise selections, Tony Popovic's side made a slow start and threatened very little, conceding 2 fortuitous goals in a sluggish first half. Our goal-scoring heroes from the first game were introduced at half-time, which yielded a much improved second half, but the deficit was unable to be overturned. A very positive 30 minutes from Christian Volpato was a bright storyline from the game and extremely encouraging as we look ahead to a crucial third and final game against Paraguay. So what went wrong in this game and how do we approach the Paraguay game? All that plus your questions coming up. Mopper, how are you feeling after 24 hours or so of reflection?
I'm still okay, Chief. Look, lots to learn out of that game. I think the only thing we lost, apart from the game, is the opportunity to top the group. And we missed that mark because we weren't brave enough to really have a crack at it. So, look, I still think we're in a comfortable position. It was, I think, always coming down to this final game anyway. It shows how important that first game was, getting that 3 points against Turkiye, because now the group has now knocked Turkiye out, which puts Paraguay and the Socceroos in a perfect scenario. If they draw, they're likely to go through with the outcome of some groups. We've already seen Turkiye out. We've seen Haiti pretty much gone and Tunisia gone as well. So I think when you look at the holistic picture, I think we're still pretty comfortable in our position. And both teams, look, are similar styles. So going against Paraguay, I think, is a good opportunity to finish second, and that would be our main target. And we've got a pretty good, I think, group side if we do finish second. That group is still pretty open, so we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I think looking at and reflecting on the game with early analysation, I know we're going to go through it, but Pochettino is not the elite manager that probably Poch would like to be. He's probably missed out on a few trophies in his time, and Klopp and Pep probably hold those reins with Ancelotti. But I think he's on that next level down, and he just tactically outthought us. And I think we misunderstood the opportunity. We've really missed that moment. And I don't think we learned anything from October when we played them against 2-1, because we didn't react to those learnings when they beat us last time. Some of the comments after the game too about inexperience and vice versa. Well, we had Irvine and Devlin on the bench who play for St. Pauline Hearts, who are used to these environments and used to these volatile experiences. So I think, again, we just misread the opportunity, and we paid the price for some decisions not being brave enough and not being put those key players in. And I think the two players that were heavily criticised are probably victims of some of our first half play and our tactical setup in the first place. And I don't think they're alone in the criticism.
Yeah, very good points, mate. And yeah, as you mentioned, the two players that were the changes from the Turkiye starting lineup anyway have come under scrutiny. And we do have lots of questions and comments. And thank you to everyone who responded to our shout out for those today. Let's start with the lineup and the general approach to the game. And I'm just going to go through some of the comments and questions that we got. So the first one from Holly: Blue Play and Lecky, why were they picked? What went wrong with them and what happens with them next? The next one was: I felt the manager benching our goal scorers should be investigated. From Con, they need to start with the front three of Ture, Irankunda and Volpato. And I keep Volpato out of the team. How did Volpato make this squad? He's not at the level, struggles in the A-League too. From Euro the Magpie, if you took the Turkey lineup and made one change to start Volpato, what would it be? Would you need to change more? Similar along lines, similar from Paul as well. Wrong selections, need to play best 11 from kickoff. Volpato, Metcalfe, Ture, Irankunda should all have started. Wrong tactics, too negative again. Needed to attack more. Didn't test dodgy US defense, and he's got some comments about the second half as well. I thought this one was interesting from Reality Hag. Felt we were overawed as well as outwitted tactics-wise, which you mentioned, Mopper, in that first half. Looked like their legs were frozen, very flat-footed, slow to offload, slow balls generally. Different team second half. Wonder if the home crowd got to them. Also, difference between US theatrics and Oz theatrics, and even Premier League and England legend Wayne Rooney chipped in with some comments saying that, look, if you're not one of the top teams, you basically need to play your best team throughout the group stage in order to progress. So yeah, thanks to everyone for comments around that. And let's start with those changes. So Volpato and Lecky came in for Connor Metcalfe and Nestory Irankunda. So surprise changes. Look, I think we can all look back on this now and say it didn't work. But what, in your opinion, Mopper, was Popovic trying to do by bringing these two into the squad and leaving Irankunda and Metcalfe on the bench?
I think his initial thought was back in October when he started similarly with Boyle in there, and obviously D'Agostino. He was trying to just get defensive press. And let's look at Lecky first. He's a defensive midfielder now with Melbourne City. He would have looked at that as an opportunity to stop them from scoring in the first half. I've got no doubt that this is why he was picked for in the first place, to play a defensive triangle rather than a 10 outlet. And as you can see, the challenge with that is, unfortunately, you've got to look at like countries like Spain. They beat you because they hold the ball. That's their form of defence. And if you don't have a form of defence, if you hold the ball, that's the problem. And this is where it all went wrong, to Holly's point. And I think Lecky, again, with that defensive mindset, couldn't offer us the speed and the outlet. You've seen Croatia as well. You've seen Portugal, Modric and Ronaldo struggling because they just don't have the legs or the pace to keep up with the current standards of the game. You've seen how quick America was to pounce on us. So I think that's caught out. I think Volpato is probably the victim of the circumstances. You think back to Volpato when he had his opening cap against Switzerland, and how do you analyse his first half performance? Because we set him up to fail, and we set Volpato up to fail as well. I think, again, victim of the situation and just the wrong personnel for the wrong moment. Look, Volpato come on against Turkey, played okay. But you've seen some defensive weaknesses with Volpato not tying in on that left-hand side, which Metcalfe covers both sides of the pitch very well. And it's just that experience. Why Volpato was picked? Well, he was starting in the World Cup campaigns. If you go back and look at the Asia campaign when Popovic first started, and he offered that outlet as a second striker. And that's probably Popper favours Volpato back in there. But Volpato unfortunately had some bad injuries and only really played 17 games for Melbourne Victory this year. So not as sharp as probably what some other players are. But I still think both players are victims of our mindset and our setup. And you said that the week before about our first half performances and sitting too deep and not having the capability to hold the ball. I think all players, you can go on and on, but our mindset and our mentality for this game, it was a free hit to take on America, and we just missed the mark.
Well, I think, like I've said over the past couple of weeks, ever since we haven't been starting Irankunda, that he is the perfect example of us sitting really deep, but being able to offer the opposition something else to look at. And I think in Volpato and Lecky, we weren't probably any further forward in terms of defensive structure, but it's their ability to be able to break and get up the field that really let us down. And look, let's make sure we credit with Lecky. He's been a fantastic player for the Socceroos over many years. This is his fourth World Cup. He offers plenty of experience. If he's going to be in the squad, maybe that is for the experience. And we have so many World Cup debutants, and he can offer some of that advice to them. But I just don't. I think you're throwing him to the wolves out there in that type of environment. And you make a good point around players like Modric and Ronaldo, because you look at some of the other teams and they're just youthful and exuberant and they've got no fear and they just go at you. And I just think that we lacked that ability to be able to do that. So I think, yeah, I can see what Popovic was trying to do, and maybe he was, trying to just set up defensively, get the game to maybe a 0-0 and frustrate the home crowd and put a bit of pressure on USA. But the problem is when we do concede these goals that we don't have a reaction, we don't have a change of formation, we don't have a change of style, which really allows us to do that, which is really disappointing. So yeah, I think, look, on reflection, Popovic even said that he should have made more changes in the post-match press conference, and a lot of people are saying, well, he should have gone the other way. He should have kept pretty much the same starting 11 and rolled that out. My thought is that if you don't think Irankunda or Metcalfe can play a full 90 minutes, roll them out from the start, see what you can get out of them, and then you got the ability to bring on like someone like a Volpato toward the end of the game, and you see what he did in that back end 30 minutes. But I just don't understand what he was really trying to achieve from having them in, and it just kind of threw us off. And as you said, I think probably some better experienced players in the right positions could have benefited us a bit more.
Yeah, look, if you look at the previous friendly, we actually kept the USA down on their creativity and shots, considering last time when we played them. But again, the same tactic of ball retention. I think we're only at around 20% in that first 25 minutes. It's an alarming stat that we've had. But I guess when you look at it, America was the top rated ranked country in our group. And we've struggled to compete with anyone that's been top rated in our groups. We've had France twice. I know France is on a different level. You know, we're in Africa, we've had Germany. In Germany, we had Brazil. So, and we know what 2014 had every elite country in there, plus us. So, look, this was the top nation. We've still got to evolve to get to that level. We're not too far off. Look, only 2 shots on target from America, and they were the goals. And like you said, they weren't great goals. So we're, an own goal and, a free kick that we just, one player just didn't come out far enough. But I still think there's a lot more to evolve with this side. And when you look at Paraguay, a couple of questions, what do we do against Paraguay? We've played Paraguay 5 times. We're undefeated against Paraguay. We've had 3 draws, 2 wins. Admittedly, 2010 was the last time we played them. We had David Carney in October 2010, scored a great goal. But this Paraguay sets up very similar to us. They're the lowest possession stat team in South America out of their qualifying group, and they've only scored 14 goals in qualifying. And they've got a great defence. They base their football just like us. So I think with the questions around how do we react and who do we play and vice versa, I think we're going to come up with it against a very similar side. And yes, there's lots of learnings in this, and a lot of people have had their say around the tactics and the formation. We got it all wrong. It's as simple as that, isn't it? And it's now time to get this Paraguay game right. And the only probably other disappointing thing was, like you said, halftime reports come out and said we've got to stick discipline to the same structure. There was no adjustment to what we had, and that's why we're easy to read for America, weren't we? We're the same stuff, and we're just too easy to read. And Pot's just too smart, been around the game long enough to know how to play around and through those formations. And you've seen the countries that attacked us in the warm-ups hitting those channels and hitting those lines with speed. And once again, we're undone because we've got 2 or 3 at the back, sitting back, marking space, rather than pressing up on the ball and being around the midfield.
I think you're spot on there. I think Poch would have looked at our lineup and thought, all right, like here's going to be the threats. They're going to be on set pieces, which were really poor. We kind of chatted about that during the game. Like they were really poor. The way that those corners were just being hung up and expecting Sudar to make something out of it. That should have been the threat for Australia based on the lineup, but I don't think there was any threat or much threat at all of the Socceroos springing something on the counter attack for the US. And I think that once he saw the likes of Irankunda on the bench, I think they would have been pretty happy with that. There might have been a sense of the USA rolling Irankunda up last time that we played them and having him on the bench to take some of the heat out of the game. Maybe that was some of the mentality. But yeah, I just think that whether it was Irankunda or Volpato, we just didn't have weapons to go against them, unfortunately. And then this is the issue, and we will get onto the Paraguay game later on, but it's almost the case of whoever scores first in that game has a huge advantage because we know both teams are pretty defensively solid, and we know that once they go a goal up, they're probably going to sit back even further. So it'll be a huge advantage for either team if they go up in that game. I just want to touch on a few pieces of the first half, and then I know you want to go through a bit of analysis for the goals themselves. So we had an early chance for Mo Toure as he tested keeper from a tight angle, but was going to take an absolute miracle to get that one in. The US definitely looked sharper, getting to loose balls, knockdowns. They were just quicker to everything. Moving themselves on the ball a lot quicker, the US than Turkiye did, which we were really struggling with. We found a little bit of joy when we're getting the ball into the box early. Lecky got a cross into Toure at one point that got cut out. Boss was waiting on the far post if it had snuck through, but really we just offered so little in that first half. And although they only scored 2 goals, they really dominating and looked a lot more threatening than Turkiye did with their general play as well. But take us through the goals, because you picked out a few things that we could improve on there.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to point out a couple of simple points. Football, look, games can be defined in moments. Just prior to the goal, I never look at the goal itself. You can see what happens, but leading up to it is the defining part of our game, and this is what we have to evolve. So we won the ball back in the back third, and let's look at how what our setup was when we actually turned the ball over. We retain possession, we jump in. These are the crucial moments that define retention of ball control, yeah? And the game, and the biggest question of all to me is how we lost yesterday. This is exactly the reason why. We can evolve this because we've seen moments in our football against Turkiye and other nations, and we do have the capabilities. And yes, this is a young group, Chief, but I think we're good enough to play a better game. So let's look at the goal. Let's look at the setup just prior. So Boss wins the ball in the back third, and we play it back to Burgess. Now this is all comes down to mindset. Burgess kicks it long and out. He just boots it straight up in the air, not even thinking of what potentially could play. So I've paused it there to have a look and go, okay, if we've won the ball, why are we just kicking it out or kicking it long to nobody? And we did this many a times. So what can be done? So in that moment, just prior to the goal, there was 3 players when Burgess had the ball, and it's just awareness in the moment. 2 players have a chance to space on the right shoulder. One was Ocon. If he just shifted left, Burgess can play a simple ball out. We're at acres of space to counter. And Boss is the same. One movement back. If he just 1-2'd Burgess, if he just made that awareness or positional awareness back into that little bit of space, we retain the ball and we don't turn it over. Burgess too is left-footed. So again, the way he positioned himself was square on. So he'd need to open up his body. There was time. He had 2 or 3 yards, and at this elite level, it should be enough time. But he fails to get onto his right foot. So if you look at where USA were when Burgess had the ball, they were right in a direct line. So any shift or movement of the ball left or right, we retain possession and we're away. Let's look at the second group now in the midfield there. So the second group, O'Neill, Lecky and Toure, are actually perfectly set up for the counter. They have a 3-on-1 advantage. So if Burgess was brave enough to play with his right foot, we could have kept the ball with ease and countered. You go have a look at that setup when Boss turns it over and have a look at that midfield. That's 3-on-1 to us in the midfield. So you can see how easily we can counter. But then I want to look at the third group, and this is the defensive players, Suda, Sakadi, and Hayano. So again, it's mindset to me. Do we play or do we boot it away? Suda's free. If he just makes that and drops back into to the shoulder of Burgess, he can just play a simple ball. Even we could have just easily played it back to Beach. I just think when we've got the ball, the mindset needs to change. To keep the ball, we don't have to look at the next situation, the ongoing pressure. It's just boot the ball away and just thump it up the line. It's just not there. If we're aware of the football and the common sense play, we could just be playing simple balls and retaining possession, and we wouldn't be putting ourselves under all this defensive pressure and unnecessary pressure just by our actions with the ball. Obviously, when Burgess kicked it out, America shies it. They switch to play. The ball goes down the line, and you know the rest. So 1-0. So the other one, the second goal, free kick, we just didn't come out enough. We left the 18-yard box open because we're all, again, too deep. We weren't brave enough to have someone on the penalty spot, and you can see the reaction. So, again, we have one player on the far post that doesn't come out with the rest of the group or too slow within the line. So, again, though, I want to point out the points that we've been talking about for the last 12 months. We have to evolve mentally and be a lot braver on the ball if we want to retain it, because retaining the ball is the best form of defense, not having everyone deep in one line. If you look, even when America played it in and Robinson was free, why have we got a player that's free on the left in acres of space and we're not pressing together? Because if you want to press together, then he doesn't have time on the ball. You've seen it with Switzerland with Zacco. time on the ball. These are elite players in Premier League and football around the world. If you give them time on the ball and open field, they are going to play those simple balls all day long, and you're just asking for trouble. That's what I picked out in the first half.
Yeah, thanks, Mupper. Great analysis. And I think, to me, that goal just before halftime, and we're all kind of hopeful that it might be overturned for offside, but I think that really took the wind out of our sails. I think if we were to go into the break at 1-0, still very much in the game, I think that we could have given the second half a real shake. And I mean, look, we did. Our second half was much more improved, but if it was only a 1-goal deficit, you said to me during the game you thought it was much more damage limitation in that second half as opposed to actually going and trying to get a result, which to me is really disappointing. I can understand where they're coming from, but you're only 2-0 down and want to have a go for 15, 20 minutes and try and get something out of the game. But you were saying, based on kind of Ocon's comments, you thought it was just, yeah, let's consolidate and try not to concede anymore.
It's the goal difference in the group, isn't it? And you can see why, because we've got 3 teams knocked out of the tournament already, and 8 third place teams get through. So the fear of that goal difference was in the back of their mind. But again, it comes down to mindset, doesn't it? When unfortunately Toure got taken off, he was a savage to the lambs. Unfortunately, in the first half, wasn't he? It was a useless exercise having him up there isolated. But the problem was we swapped Irankunda for Toure, and then we started playing balls in the box, starting to get more ball and crosses, and you took the target man off. Now you've got Irankunda, he's not going to win too many in the air. If Toure, again, this is why Toure and Irankunda and Metcalfe are so important. When they play together, they both have all different assets. Metcalfe links up, Toure's the target man, and Irankunda plays off Toure with his pace. It's just, well, again, we just isolated ourselves again. And when we did have those good moments in the box, imagine if Toure a bit more physical and Irankunda was behind him, then it just opens up more possibilities. But again, it was like that mindset was just, we don't want to lose by too much, and we weren't brave enough to evolve, and we have the capability to evolve. We've seen it against Turkey, and I think that's what will frustrate all the Australian fans, is that we weren't brave enough when we had a free hit opportunity in America. Like, go out there and just have a crack at them, because they've had a crack at us, and look, they're moving forward. So yeah, it was just a missed opportunity, and I think that's what all Australian fans will be frustrated on.
Yeah, agree, mate. Let's have a look at the halftime changes. We saw Irankunda, Metcalfe, and Jason Geria come on for Toure, Volpato, and Burgess. You already covered Irankunda coming on for Toure. Metcalfe for Volpato makes sense as well. What about Geria for Burgess? I would have thought if Burgess was coming off, that's perfect chance to introduce Lucas Harrington, but what it meant was Gary coming on, playing on the right, and Alessandro Ciccardi moving to the left. Probably one of the poorer games I've seen from Ciccardi in a Socceroos jersey, unfortunately, but he was just off the pace a bit, I thought.
Yeah, they all were, and it wasn't one of his best games. He redeemed himself in that second half of that one-on-one that he saved there. He had his shirt pulled. He was really strong, so he redeemed himself in the second half. But he did get burned for pace, but again, he just got caught in a position where he shouldn't be caught in that first half. And again, I'll put that down to tactical organisation, because we were pressing individually. But yeah, you're right about Ciccardi. On the opposite side, again, another strange selection. Like, yes, Geria plays on that inside right, but again, Harrington's inside left. So why are we switching it around? Like, it just, again, playing players out of position, and Geria didn't look comfortable either. I thought he'd actually start Geria for Italiano, because he would have feared that left-hand side attack from America, and it unfolded like that, like it did against Switzerland. And yeah, look, I think Geria's played good in that right wing back spot. If he wanted that fourth defender, why didn't he just start it in the first place? But anyway, it's lessons learned. You can look at it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a bizarre call for me. But what definitely Irankunda and Metcalfe coming on straight away, we definitely had a better foothold in the game. And although we were still deep, what it did allow us to do was hold a little bit of possession and then have Irankunda as a threat in the open field. And when we played the ball correctly to him, he did cause some headaches for the USA defenders. And I'm a obviously big fan of Tim Ream, being a former Fulham boy, but any chance we could have got Irankunda one-on-one with Tim Ream, and I think we did on one or maybe two occasions, and like he looked a big threat. He skipped past him, and I just think that if we could have got him in those situations a bit more, we could have caused them a few more headaches. But Volpato was probably the one that really impressed me coming on. He got about 30 minutes, came on 61st minute. I think, geez, he had a chance very early after he came on. Unfortunately, he fell to his right foot and disappointing. He didn't get more power behind it. But John, who we know is over there watching the games, he said Christian Volpato played the best 30 minutes by a Socceroo ever and must start against Paraguay. That was his proposition. So it's probably a bit of a recency bias. I mean, I thought he was very good. It's hard to kind of recall back and think that that's the best 30 minutes ever. But most completed dribbles with 5 in the game. I mean, he certainly was a lot more positive than what we'd seen from a few others out there.
It was America's worst nightmare because America didn't want the Socceroos driving at them, and that's what Volpato offers. Yeah, and that's it. He has no fear for it, and he's technically gifted as a young player, and he just with his pace and that touch that he has just allowed us more freedom. And when you play the technical players again with the link up play, this is why Metcalfe's role is so important and why a lot of people are disappointed. Metcalfe is the linchpin to transition the football to the final third. You've seen it many times. He's done it for the Socceroos the last 12 months, and it's made such an impact. And when we drive and hold the ball and move the ball to feet, you can see what dangerous play we can do as Socceroos side, and that's what being Brave's all about. It's just football sense. So, look, it was great for Volpato because he didn't really. It was like Lecky and that in the first half against Switzerland. Never really got that opportunity on the ball, did he? And this was the first time I think we really got him in a higher position in better opportunities. And America were backpedaling, and we turned them around, and they had to react with their subs to try to stop that because we were driving at them. And if we would have kept Toure up front, I think we would have scored. I think with that 4, I got no doubt we would have scored, and we would have caused them the most trouble. But yeah, interesting enough, whether he's not 100% fit but he said it was tactical decision that Toure come off at half time. It was just disappointing because you need that target man in the box if you're going to. Volpato's a great delivery of the football, and we just didn't have a target person in the box to finish it off. Even Yengi would have been a good option.
It is really exciting if this is a glimpse into the future of what we might be looking at for Volpato, it is very exciting to have that type of player that we haven't really had for a long time with the Socceroos. It's probably, I'm not saying he's Harry Kewell, don't say that I am, but that type of player that's going to square up his opponent and run at them and beat them with some skill and a bit of speed as well. So yeah, very exciting if that's what Christian Volpato is going to bring in the future for the Socceroos. Just a couple more things in the second half. Irvine came on for Ocon in the 78th minute. Again, another strange one, like fresh legs in the midfield, but at that stage when we were kind of putting a lot of pressure on them, could that have been a bit more of an attacking move? Put Yengi on for one of your centre backs or something like that, and try and change the shape a bit. But if we're not going to try it, then I just don't know when. And in the knockout stage, surely we're going to have to do something if we're chasing a goal. But I just don't understand. But yeah, it's good to see Irvine get a run out there. But yeah, we piled on the pressure late, but didn't quite execute correctly when we needed to. There were a few little half chances that we didn't quite do anything with. But look, Jay's given us a comment. Incredibly negative start by both teams. Should have been attacking more aggressively. And then a comment on the referees, their missed decisions. And then Ben also said USA are nothing without the refereeing, but they will be kept deep in the tournament there. So there was a few little calls there that definitely could have gone our way on another day. But I think that would probably dismiss the fact that we just weren't good enough on the day, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Jay was 100% right. We were negative. We've been negative in the first half for the last 12 months. This is what I mean about trying to evolve. And have a different mindset, because you've seen it in bits and pieces in second halves, and you've seen it in the first 20 minutes against Turkey. When we are positive with the ball, we can actually put it together with the right balance. There was definitely some 50-50s in there that could have gone either way. They didn't look at it. Obviously, huge pressure being a home nation, and lot of expectations obviously would have added to that. And the challenges, you can see the referee, how he felt the heat in the moment as well, because he couldn't even last the game. Um, Will America go deep in the tournament? I still don't think they're in that top 8 echelon. I think they'll push their way through, but they've never found a way past the elite. They've been always a good football team on the rise, but still they've got good players, but they don't have the best of the best. And I think when they come up against the Spains, the Paraguay, the Portugals, the Brazils, the France, and England, that they'll be outdone. It's just the reality of where they're at with their football. And yeah, they'll give a good sight, but once they come up against those technical sides, they'll find it very difficult. You think you're worried about Irankunda running at them? Wait till they get the express trains from France and vice versa with Elise and Mbappe. They won't know what to do.
So, Mopper, do you think that this was a bit of a reality check against a stronger opponent, or a warning sign that we're not quite ready to challenge better teams in the tournament? I suppose it's two parts there, because we kind of know the talent in this group, but it's almost like a sense of they're being held back. And it's kind of opposite of what Popovic said in his press conference before the tournament started. He expressed, and I don't 100% believe him, that he would like to see them be more expressive, and he feels like they're holding themselves back. But I think tactically, we're just sitting back where we could be so threatening to these teams.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a reality check. America's stronger. Yeah, they're slightly ahead of us. We know that in the world rankings. We know that in previous tournaments. They've gotten further more consistently. They have a stronger league than us. There's a lot of things that America are stronger than us at. And they've just got the edge, but not by much. We're not that far off them. We had a good friendly against them in October. We've competed with them here. And we really double back in analysing our own game, because we know we could have done better. I don't think we expressed ourselves against them. I think we'd be very disappointed about our performance, which we've broken down, and across all media outlets, a lot of feedback on our approach to the game. Are we quite ready to challenge? Well, we will be when we evolve. And look, this is going to be experience. We've been on this journey for 12 months now. We've had a lot of time to prepare. This team, yes, is young, but it does have experience as well. And I just think they've got to find that right balance. I still think we're good enough to challenge stronger nations, but it's going to take a mindset to evolve from this. I don't think the players have been held back. If you analyse the football and the tactics, and you can see with Burgess's, even that simple moment I explained about Burgess, they're being told and tactically to sit back and sit deep, which is not evolving or being positive, or the players not holding it back. That's tactically being told this is how we need to prepare against nations. Otherwise, I think you'd see a little bit more bravery with the ball. And we have shown the capability, but we just need to find the balance for that. I think Mark Bosnich probably put the nail on the head for me today. He was on with Robbie Slater on Stan Sport, and he said it's at the formation, and we talk about the formation about three at the back. It's fine to have this formation or whatever structure you set up, but if you're going to play this formation, then one needs to be released into that midfield to push on the next person to press, so we're all one-on-one and we're not getting outnumbered. That is tactically how that formation should play, but we're playing like we're two sweepers, and it's just unnecessary. And he said we're outnumbered. Every time we move the ball, we're outnumbered because we've got two players to sit back doing nothing, or just protecting the space in behind. And I see that when we have the football. Like, I see the way other nations set up, and Japan today, and I know there was a comment in there about Japan. Their positional awareness and touch, and being able to find those spaces and play football is just natural to them. Until we evolve to that next level, then the challenge is then we will be better at tournaments, because you can't play the way we are now, sitting back, even against Turkey, like 30 shots, just sitting back, the strikers on the 18-yard box for like 60, 70 minutes. Is that how really we want to defend and play against? at some point, when even you go back 4 years ago when we played Argentina, as soon as we have to go and be aggressive, then our football stands up to a point. But again, what it takes us that realization to chase a game, to really go after it. And I get mentality wise, when the other teams, when they get in front, are going to change their tactics as well. But I really think we're not quite ready yet to evolve to that next level. But we do have the ability and potential, and a lot of players coming through the ranks at the right age bracket to really evolve in the next 4 years. But the change in mindset needs to come from everybody, not just the players that we're developing.
And it's something that we've spoken about before as well, mate, because having this formation, and when you look at the underage groups on the men's side who are playing different formations, they're playing 4-2-3-1s,
Yeah.
4-4-2s, and obviously in your professional career, you're going to go to different clubs, you're going to play different formations. But as a national body, we should be looking to adopt similar styles. And there's obviously great examples of like a Spain. They're a 4-3-3 like through and through, and they don't change outside of that. So each player that comes through the system knows exactly what they need to do. So I think this is pretty foreign, and probably a lot of these players don't play three or a five at the back at their club level either. So they're coming into the environment, limited preparation, and this is what you got to do. I thought interesting point there you made about what Bosnich said about that centre back pushing into the midfield, and probably Sakati is the one who has the most natural instinct to do that, to push into the midfield. So if he's playing in the centre of those three and he pushes in, but then it's not natural probably for Sudar to play either side of that either. So it just throws all that balance off. So yeah, it's an interesting kind of thing, and it segues really nicely into this comment from Ed actually as well, because he said, just think it's interesting to see how we're coached by Popovic versus Ange in 2014 when we tried to take teams on and lost all three games. Turkish win was heaven, but do we need to shift our approach for Paraguay? So I will say that our opponents in 2014 in the group stage were much, much tougher than our opponents in this one. But look, that was Ange went there with the mentality of we're going to take every team on, we're going to try and beat them. And yes, we came out there, but didn't we give all three of those teams a red hot crack in the group stage? And we took some of the world's best teams right to the brink.
Yeah, and probably not with the most talented team either that we've ever had. And it was technically wise, we've got a much better side now, technically. So yeah, look, that's a different coaching styles, isn't it? And what's right, what's wrong. Whoever's brave enough to push on, because yes, we've been to the round of 16, and yes, this is a different tournament now, and you've got to get to the round of 32 before you get to round of 16. So different scenario, but as a nation, I think the biggest point you made was the youth setup all the way through. We've got all different systems, and it's not functional if you want to get them to the next level. So that's something that has to be addressed on all levels. And I think, look, the 2014, I think that's how Australian fans want to be seen. We know we're going to come up against Argentina, France, and all these nations. They just want to see us have a crack. I don't think Australia would walk away today and go, we made 5 or 6 changes, we had a crack at them, and we've got this moment, and like we lost 2-0 or 2-1 or something, but at least we had a go. Like I just think we left all the questions unanswered just by our setup. And I've seen Popovic probably flustered for the first time, and I know he's trying to deflect off some of the questions around inexperience and all that kind of stuff, but that wasn't the case. We had a lot of players that on the bench that played at many higher levels. So look, I just that approach is important for the philosophy of the football game and the way we're heading, because you want to, like, how many fans did we get on board that would have seen football, that don't watch football like we do every day and every week, go, wow, how good is this against Turkiye? And we still defended, but we still showed the initiative to be brave. And all they could do was talk about that moment. They built up all that excitement to play America. We had a free hit at them, and then what did we do? We just went deeper again. Like, it's just that's not the Australian way. And I think that's the philosophy of the nation wants to see the Socceroos have a go, because that's the nation that we represent.
Yeah, and I'm just going back to Reality Hack's comment about being kind of overawed by the occasion. And I wonder if some of that build up in the media kind of played into players' minds as well. And, Truant came out with a comment during the week saying, never wanted to win a game more. And that's all well and good. You're at a World Cup. Of course, you want to win and do your best and all that kind of stuff. But I just wonder if some of that lent into it as well. We got some comments from Brew, who's a massive Middlesbrough fan. Annoying to see Lecky starting against USA, who offered nothing against Mexico. Volpato wasn't brought on at halftime. How do you feel about Boateng? That's Kevin Prince Boateng, who's on the SBS analyst panel. Mo Top, Nestory, and Volpato with four backs. I think that's needed at halftime. Richo knew Popper doesn't handle the back four, so he probably knew that Popper wasn't going to change his style. He knew that he was going to stick to that and maybe bring some different changes off the bench, but he was prepared for it. So yeah, I think tactically got it wrong, but looking ahead to the Paraguay game, if we can kind of move direction a little bit, mate, how do you think we should set up, knowing that we're not going to change the formation, but what kind of players can we put in the right positions to make this a more beneficial game? And should we be going out with the intent of winning this, or should we be a bit more cautious and knowing that a draw will get us second spot in the group?
Oh, it's a balance, isn't it? But I think if you look at Paraguay, who are tactically, like I said, low, very low possession team, the worst in South American qualifying. They only averaged 38%, and they're the lowest scorers on 14. But they did have the third best defense, only conceding 10 in qualifying. They did concede to America, shipped a few goals there, so they can be gotten at. And if you look at their away record, they don't travel away from their country very well. So I think we've got to have the right balance, but I think we've seen the right balance, Chief. You've seen the setup against Turkiye and the way we approach that first 15 to 20 minutes with Metcalfe leading the line, pressing and covering those spaces in between the transitional lines. So I just go back to what worked, and we looked our best. And then, yeah, I think Volpato and all that just offers more off the bench now. Jackson Irvine, you could probably bring in for experience, or someone like Cam Devlin, who they're just experienced at that big game pressure. Like it's going to be pretty big game pressure again. I think someone has to come in for Paul Ocon and bring him Ocon on later, technically to hold the ball more, because again, Paraguay is not going to offer that high possession. So you just need to put players in there that are going to be experienced in the situation. So I just can't go past Devlin and Irvine with their experience. Matt Ryan, even like I know Beach didn't have much to do, but these they've gotten through situations. They've been at World Cups. They know do or die games. That's the kind of approach that I want, but it's not too dissimilar to what we did against Turkey. Just play your best 11 that you think and let them play football and be a bit brave, because the best form of defense is holding the ball.
It's interesting that discussion around, as much as I'd like to see like a 4-2-3-1 setup, it's not going to happen. So let's talk about a
No.
front three. Mo
Yeah.
Toure will start, but if he's fit, which we hope he is. Nestory Irankunda should start as well, you'd think. I think I'd be tempted to start Volpato. The only hesitation in not is I know that Metcalfe, how well he balances out that team. So I can see where everyone's coming from with Volpato, and I think he was outstanding the other day off the bench. But how do we best utilize him? And it would be a shame to leave Metcalfe out, just given he hasn't done anything wrong. Like he was fantastic in the first game, and he offered plenty off the bench in the second game as well. So hard to leave him out, but it's kind of like, yeah, how do you fit four into three? And then I suppose like the conversation around like Lecky, Volupale, and as an extension of that, guys like Mobile, it's probably you're rotating through those four I mentioned before and Teddy Yingy. That's how I would see any combination of those three rotating through those five players. I would say from this point, I'm not sure if Popovic is going to go back to the experiments of Volupale and Lecky after the USA game.
Oh, he definitely won't. You'll see the front three, what you're seeing with Toure, Irankunda, and Metcalfe. He will no way allow Volpato play to with Irankunda because it's too attacking. Metcalfe is the linchpin that protects Irankunda to get forward and get on Touré's shoulder. So there's not a chance that Volpato is going to be allowed to be let loose with Irankunda and
Let
Touré
him
as
loose.
much as
Let him loose.
as much as Aussie fans want to see it, Chief. It won't happen. Metcalfe protects that channel. You can't underestimate what he does defensively, and he knows the system better than anyone. Volpato will be great when he comes on, when Yengi comes on, because if he provides those balls for Yengi or Touré, then you're going to see some goalmouth action. So I think you'll see Volpato again probably play another 35, 40 minutes. He'll replace either Irankunda, Metcalfe, depending on the situation. The midfield one's the big one for me. Who's those two? O'Neill's played pretty much, he's run his guts out. He's the most commonly used midfielder. Who partners him? Is it Devlin or Irvine? I don't think Ocon starts in this one. He'll be looking for some experience. And probably Burgess is, with that performance today, a lot of pressure on Burgess to retain his position. Is it too risky to play Harrington? We've seen him evolve and play. Would he put him in that situation final game? That'll be a massive call. And the rest pretty much stays the same. So the big one for me is that inside left centre back and that one deep lying midfielder who protects it, because I think the front three stays the same as Turkiye.
All right, interesting, mates. Let's move on. One from Melbourne Gooner 3000, who said not making the knockout stages would be a disaster. Yeah, I tend to agree, especially with the way we started this group. I think we absolutely have to get through that one. And then Oslock, one of our favourites. Some interesting questions here from Oslock. Do you think Popper should have been given a contract extension? Is there a scenario where the Socceroos face the USA again in the knockout stages? I did look into that one. If we finish third, we'd play them in the semis. If we finish second, we'd be in the final. So very unlikely we'll face USA again. Will we see Irankunda, Touré, Volpato start together? We kind of covered that just before. And then Harrington for Burgess. Yeah, interesting one. But what do you think about the one for Popper with the contract extension? I think the timing of it before the World Cup, a lot of people thought that we should see how this plays out before making that step. It is only kind of 6-7 month contract to get us into the end of the Asian Cup, and then we're into another World Cup qualification cycle. But what do you think about that one?
I think with Popper's contract, it was just a matter of time. When you heard Martin's first two conferences, he glowingly recommended tying Popovic down in each one of those first two conferences. So it was just a matter of when it was going to happen. He's on a journey. He was always going to, no matter what happens at the World Cup, he was always going to get his biggest opportunity at the Asia Cup, similar to what we've done before. And look, let's admit, like Football Australia is not in a financial position if we like crash and burn in the next 12 months out of these tournaments to go out and get a big name and spend heaps of money on an international coach to go to that next level. So I think financially for Football Australia, it was just a smart decision to stay local, stay Australian, stay modest within our budget. And Popper is just giving the opportunity, no matter what happens at this World Cup, to showcase like Ange did at the Asia Cup and see if we can do something there, although Asia's getting mightily hard, and then see what happens after that. I've got no doubt that would have been on the cards when Martin would have come in when he started back in January, February, like he stated in the conferences.
Yeah. Looking ahead to some potential opponents, if we are to make it through into the round of 32. So if we make it as a second place team, we're going to play second place in the group of New Zealand, Iran, Belgium, and Egypt. So currently all four of them on 1 point. You would think it might, if Belgium top the group, maybe an Egypt, Iran, or even in New Zealand, which would be very interesting, but very achievable to get a result out of either of those three teams, you would think. And then if we do finish third, it becomes a lot harder, probably facing up against a Germany or one of those types of teams. So there's a huge advantage in finishing second, and I think we should be really chasing that spot and not falling back into the third spot. And it might just open up the draw a little bit for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think Paraguay and the Socceroos are in the perfect position for themselves. Just the draw suits both teams, doesn't it? And you've seen this situation before and everyone playing at the same time. Turkiye is already out and you've already seen other nations out. So with a low possession two teams, I'm not sure what type of football game we're going to see. Well, I can guess what type of football game we're going to see on Friday. But yeah, look, second place is obviously, I think, a great outcome for Australia. If you were to come in and said, yeah, we're going to finish second in the group and go play one of those nations in the round 32, then it's up to us to evolve to see if we can beat someone like that. Yeah, and I think we're highly capable of. And then obviously the round of 16 probably gets a bit harder. You're gonna come up potentially against Argentina or those kind of Uruguays or someone like that in that higher nation, which you'd expect anyway at a World Cup. You're going to meet these big teams at some point with our ranking. So I think to get out of the group is still a positive. Round of 32, Australia will have expectations. Whether we're good enough, that'll depend on our football on the day. We can't be overawed by the occasion, and that's where this group is really going to be tested. So, look, still one job to do. We've got to get there, and so is Paraguay. But I'm pretty confident and comfortable in our position on Friday because mentally knowing what we need to do, I think that's a good situation to be in. That first game against Turkiye has absolutely set us up. I said it the other week and said we're in the perfect position to go through, which is job done number one.
Yep. So Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will be exciting to build up to that one against Paraguay, and interesting to see how both teams approach that one.
Hey, Chief, I've got a question for you, mate. Chief, I've got a question for you. With Australia facing a Friday midday game, how should the Australian employment agencies approach everybody wanting to watch the game at Friday at 12 o'clock? Schools, businesses, what do we do as a country? You've seen other countries take the lead and just stop. What will Australia be doing at Friday at 12 o'clock?
Do you want me to write a letter to Anthony Albanese to make it public holiday for everyone to make sure that we can get it off work? Oh, I think, everyone needs to do what they need to do. Chuck a sickie, take an annual leave day. Schools should be having it on in their halls and in their assemblies and different things. Get the kids around it, get everyone excited, get everyone pumped. Let's all get behind it. We've been really fortunate with the way that the first two games have fallen on weekends, but yeah, let's give everyone at least give them half a day of Friday and let them go and enjoy it and make sure we all get around it.
All right, we'll see what happens and see how many annual leave requests are in on tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
All right, mate. Let's finish off with a bit of transfer activity. I'm just going to whip through these. We will obviously do a full kind of A-League preview when we get around to it, but there's been plenty of movement, which I just want to run through. Starting off with Jing Reese to the MacArthur Bulls. Jonathan Aspropotamus has also gone to the Bulls, returning there after a couple of seasons in Korea. Mitch Duke has left the club to pursue some overseas opportunities. At Brisbane Roar, Marco Ilic has come in and J.O. Shea is on the way out. Charbel Shamoon re-signs with Perth Glory. They've also signed Henry Hoare, and Callum Neuenhoff. Very interested to see how Callum Neuenhoff goes. He's had a torrid time over there at Hearts last couple of seasons with injuries. I think it's just a loan deal, but I just want to see him playing some football because he's a fantastic player. The Wanderers have put the broom through the place. Costa Barbarouses out, Josh Brillante, Bozidar Kraev, Jacob Farrell, Alu Kual, Philip Kankar, and Ruan Tongyik all out the door. Dan Hall has left Auckland to pursue overseas opportunity. Steve Corica has departed Auckland FC and announced as the new coach of Yokohama F. Marinos this afternoon. Gee, the Japanese club love Aussies. I think that's their fifth Aussie coach, which is very pleasing to see. Melbourne Victory have announced a new manager in Giovanni Savarese with experience in the MLS, as far as I could tell from his history. The Mariners have released 10 players. One of them was Miguel De Pizio. Kostas Grozos has left the Jets. Another one out the door for the Jets, mate. He's been heavily linked to Sydney FC in the last couple of weeks, so it'll be interesting to see if that's where he lands. Lucas Cicluna also leaves the Jets and has signed with Perth. Tim Payne has gone from Wellington Phoenix to Club Olympia. Of course, he had that big not YouTube, Instagram following pre-World Cup. So no doubt that has sparked that move. Sam Kerr has announced her destinations. He signed with Gotham City in the USA. A couple of manager movements. Derek McInnes has moved from Hearts to Rangers, so no doubt new manager incoming for Cam Devlin. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has been announced as the new final manager for Geordie Boss. Russell Martin, the new Leicester manager for Harry Soutar, if he remains at the club. And what a surprise that Watford have got a new manager in Alessio Dionisi, who comes in there for Nestory Irankunda's side. This one's a nice one, mate. Peter Klimowski is Salford City's new men's first team manager, and there's thoughts that Ange Postecoglou has
Yeah,
had a
I've
word
seen that.
to
Yeah.
Gary Neville. Pete obviously worked under Ange with the Socceroos and youth level. He's very highly touted, Pete. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes with this opportunity at Salford City. And Adelaide United will face Vietnamese champions Kong and Hanoi in the AFC Champions League Elite 26-27 playoff on Tuesday, 11th of August at Highmarsh Stadium. So Stefan Mork returning to Adelaide United with his Vietnamese side. So bit of movement, mate. It's all happening in this crazy off season. Any of those particularly spark your interest?
No, I'm excited about Peter's appointment. That's the second Aussie manager now we'll have in that division. So I'll be following another division over in England. So look forward to following that one. At Adelaide United's Champions League and the Vietnamese champions Kong An Ha, they're both out of season and they're going to play the Champions League qualifier. So that'll be tough for both clubs. Look, Watford's merry-go-round's like a lottery. It'd be very interesting to see what happens at Hearts. Is that a potential move for Kevin Muscat? Maybe will Hearts look at that one? It'd be very, timeline and timeframes. It possibly could be an option. It's definitely going to be a great opportunity there. Hearts they're in Champions League qualifying as well, so big decision. Big decision. I know a lot of Hearts fans were really angry at that reaction. Sam Kerr, she obviously in New Jersey is where Gotham is, so that's pretty much close to where she wanted to be with her family now. And yeah, look, Steve Corica, congratulations. Yokohama, what a great opportunity for Steve Corica, the next in the production line. And he's done a great apprenticeship over in Australia, hasn't he? And a well-deserved moment for Steve Corica. I think it's his first big opportunity to really prove himself. They're obviously going to come back now, and they've aligned their league to the Premier League, and that was part of the J League's big plan to get their league to the elite level. So very interesting moves, but yeah, lots of positive stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well said. Yeah, that's going to about do us for tonight. Thank you. A massive thank you to everyone who provided some comments and some questions. It really made the show, and we love to keep you guys engaged with what we're doing. So, yeah, really appreciate everyone's thoughts that came in. So, big thank you to everyone who did that. Yeah, as I said before, all eyes now on the big game against Paraguay this Friday at 12 p.m. So thanks everyone for listening tonight. It's been a big show, plenty to get through, plenty of analysis and plenty of thoughts on the Socceroos' performance against the USA. Let's get all behind them for the big game against Paraguay. We'll be back on Sunday next week to break it all down. In the meantime, enjoy the World Cup and enjoy your football.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Keep those comments coming through. Fantastic reaction. We loved answering as many questions as we possibly could, and hopefully we did a good job. But keep firing them in because this World Cup is just warming up.